Hi everyone! Today we're making ramen. If I have to name 5 of my favorite foods of all time, ramen will probably be up there somewhere. It's definitely one of my favorite comfort foods for sure. So it's one of the things I missed since going on keto. But just like bread, what I'm really craving for isn't the carbohydrate. What I'm really craving for is that noodle eating experience that is so pleasurable and so comforting. You have that satisfying noodles and the warm broth that is so healing. But obviously it's not keto friendly because the main ingredients in ramen is the ramen. So I had to find alternatives. But luckily with my upbringing, I was born in Taiwan, but I spent a few years in Japan when I was growing up. And I was familiar with an ingredient called shirataki. So if you spend some time in Japan, you probably will come across it. You probably see them most often in hot pots or some sort of a stew, Japanese stew. So this is shirataki. So you can see it's kind of shaped like noodles. Sometimes it'll come in block as well. It's made of the same thing. It's kind of mountain yam, Japanese yam. So for some miraculous reason, it has no calories and it's full of fiber. So it's considered one of the sort of really healthy food to eat nowadays, but it hasn't always been a sort of a diet food or health food. It's been eaten in Japan since 18th century. I mean, I didn't know that, I had to Google it. So it's been hundreds of years. It's a very normal part of the cuisine, and it's a dream item for people on keto because it's a great noodles substitute. If you go to a ramen shop in Japan, most of the time there are 2 camps of broth that you can pick from. One is miso and one is shoyu. Shoyu basically means soya sauce. So these are the most popular broths when it comes to ramen noodles. So today we're going to use shirataki to create really delicious shoyu ramen. They're 0 carb, high in fiber, and absolutely delicious. So let me show you how to make it. Okay, for the ingredients you need. So the first thing we need is some kombu. So this is not the prettiest thing in the world, but the flavor is absolutely wonderful. So this is a dry seaweed and it's quite hard. We're going to use it to produce stock. And also for the stock, we need some shiitake. So these are dry shiitake. The flavor, the fragrance is absolutely amazing. So this is what they look like, dry. They're extremely fragrant. And what I've done here is basically soak them in warm water. So these have been soaked for about 15-20 minutes in warm water and they kind of expand and puffed up a lot. So we're going to need them to produce broth as well. And this is called shoyu ramen. One of the main ingredients in the broth will be soy sauce. So I've got some soy sauce here. And we also need a little bit of stevia, a little bit of sweetener of your choice. And for the noodles, of course, we're going to use shirataki noodles. It's got no carb, no fat, and high in fiber. It's a dream food. So there are lots of alternatives out there that say 0 carb noodles. My advice is just don't go near them. This is my warning to you. Reason being that they'll probably give you some digestion problems. I don't know what they do to them. They kind of take the concept of shirataki. They use the same yam, but they kind of tamper with it and make it indigestible for human body. So they are going to give you bloatedness and indigestions. Just avoid them at all costs. Look for something that say shirataki, Japanese shirataki, and check the ingredients. There should only be 3 ingredients, which is water, the yam, and also the sitting agent. And this is how shirataki has been made since the beginning of time, or 18th century. So just be careful. When you buy these, make sure it says shirataki, okay? And it's got 170 grams net weight here. So I've got 2 packs here. So I normally use 2 packs for 1 person. And other ingredients I'm going to add to the noodles. And first of all, we're going to add some tofu. So this is a smoked one. So I couldn't find the plain one. So I'm going for the smoked variety, but plain ones. Normally I'll use the plain one. So it's up to you. So this is extremely firm. It would be great for this recipe. And I'm also going to add some fresh vegetables. So I've got some pot choy here, really fresh, and a cup of spring onions, and we'll need a cup of cloves of garlic. And that's everything. So the first thing we're going to do is to make the broth. So take a pot, and inside I've got about 4 cups of water. cold water. It's roughly about 1 liter, just under 1 liter of water. And inside we're going to add in the shiitake, the soaked shiitake. We're going to add in everything, the shiitake and the stock. So pour the whole thing in. And then take the kombu. We're going to break a piece of this kombu. You can add more if you want, but I think a piece like this is plenty. So we're going to put the kombu in the cold water and then turn the heat on. So I'm going to just make sure the kombu goes on the water properly. So start with medium to strong heat to bring the water to the boil, and then we're going to let it simmer for a while. Okay, it's coming to a boil. You can see there's some white bubbles that's on the surface. It's totally harmless, but what you can do is to just skim that off with a spoon and just take it off like that. And I have also reduced the heat slightly. I think I'm going to reduce it a little bit further. And now we're going to add in the soy sauce. For this amount of stock, we're going to add in probably about 2 tablespoons. You can add a bit more later, and really depends on your taste buds. I think 2 tablespoons probably enough for me. And also on top of that, I'm going to add in a pinch of stevia. Just make the flavor a bit smoother. Just about half a teaspoon of stevia. And give it a quick stir. And now just leave it to simmer for another 10 to 15 minutes. Okay, now while the stock is being simmered, and now we're going to fry the tofu. Just put some coconut oil on the frying pan and turn the heat on. And then I'm going to take my tofu and just place it in the frying pan. We're going to fry the entire block as it is. So you can hear the sizzling. It's a satisfying sound. So what we're trying to do here is to warm up the tofu, but also fry the surfaces on all sides until they're golden brown. So some people are not sure whether you should eat tofu raw. The truth is, there's no such a thing as raw tofu. Tofu by default is cooked. So what you're trying to do is to warm it through and also add flavoring. So I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more salt here. Okay, that's looking pretty good to me. That's a handsome piece of tofu. Now I'm going to turn the heat off and then just leave the tofu in the frying pan and put it on the side to stay warm. And now we're going to pre-cook the shirataki. So I took the shirataki out of the packet, drain the water and give it a quick rinse. So when you take it out of the packet, you get the slightly sort of fishy smell. That's the kind of best way I can describe it. Sometimes people are put off by that smell, but you don't need to worry about it because once the shirataki goes through heat, it disappears. That's what we're going to do now. We're going to put the shirataki in hot water and let it boil for a few minutes. So I've got some hot water here. So this is water just straight out of a kettle. Just quicker that way. Okay, the water's boiling and I'm going to just add the shirataki in the water. Just chuck the whole thing in. Be careful, it's a bad example I'm setting there. So the way to use shirataki is that you just pre-cook it before either it goes into the soups or you want to stir fry it. So it will firm up the shirataki and make it more noodle-like. Okay, so it's boiling now. It's been boiling probably for a couple of minutes, so it should be ready. And now all you have to do is to turn the heat off. And now we're going to drain it and leave it on the side till the broth is ready. So here's our broth. It's been simmering away for the last 15 minutes or so. So what we're going to do now is to fish out all the ingredients in there. So we're going to take out the mushrooms. So the mushrooms, we're going to put it back into the noodles later on. But the kombu here, we're not going to add it back in. It was too steamy, so I have to take the broth away so I can show you the piece of kombu I just fished up. So the kombu here, don't throw it away. We're using it for a stock, but what you can do is to slice it up, add it to another recipe, or you can just drizzle a little bit of soy sauce and sesame seed oil and just eat it that way. It's really nice. With the mushrooms, I'm going to take the stems off so we can add them back into the ramen later on. So as you can see, the stock has been reduced down quite a lot. And at this point, we want to give it a little taste. Oh, it's lovely. If you want to add more seasoning, add salt instead. Don't add the soy sauce. The broth is going to be too dark. So turn the heat up a little bit. We're going to use the broth to cook the vegetables. I basically slice up the bok choy in half, so it's easier to cook and also not too chunky. So I'm going to just add in the bok choy here to cook a little bit. It won't take very long. Bok choy is very easy to cook through. So I'm gonna just leave the bok choy in there for a little bit. So if you can't find bok choy, you can use spinach or any kind of green vegetables you like. Okay, I think the bok choy is ready, and now we're gonna just fish them out and put them on the side till we're ready. And now just one more thing to do before it's ready. The steam is incredible. We're gonna add in some garlic, if you can still see it. And the amount is up to you. You just chop the garlic, or puree the garlic if you want to. I'm gonna just add in about 2 cloves. And then just leave it to cook for a few seconds. Now I'm going to turn the heat off, and the broth is ready. And now we're going to put the ramen together. So I'm going to take the tofu here and just cut them in slices. So it'll go nicely on top of the noodles. I'll maybe get one more slice over here. Great. Now it's ready to go on the noodles. Okay, now we're going to assemble our ramen. How exciting. So inside the bowl, I'm going to put in our shirataki. So you can put as much as you want. I want plenty, actually a whole lot. Okay, that's our ramen. And then I'm going to take the tofu we fried earlier on and then put the tofu on top. So I'm gonna just try to make it as pretty as possible. Okay, that looks decent enough. And then now let's take the shiitake. So what I did was basically just cut the stems off. The stems are too hard to eat. So I'm going to just put a few. You can put more in there if you want to. I'm going to just put 2. And then on top of that, we've got the bok choy. Let's just line up the bok choy here. See, I'm trying to make it pretty as well to do it justice. And now the broth time. We're going to just pour it very elegantly and carefully. Oh, the smell is fantastic. I love shiitake. Okay, to boost the fat content, I'm going to drizzle some toasted sesame oil, my favorite. So just give it a generous drizzle. And on top of that, we're going to sprinkle some sliced spring onion. Just sprinkle on top. I mean, this is just glorious. And if you're brave like me, I'm going to put a couple of slices of red chilli. So this is our shoyu ramen with 0 carb shirataki. Time to eat, don't you think? So here you go. Here's our ramen here. My God, it looks and smells so good. So I'm going to dig in right now. So that's our shirataki noodles. It works so well with the broth and also the sesame seed oil. I love the sesame seed oil. It's just so comforting to have a bowl of noodles in front of you. And I'm going to try the tofu as well. It's so good. The tofu is so good. I think when you have good stock, everything you add in just takes up that wonderful flavor. So you can practically add anything. So let me just put it down a little bit. It's so good. So what you can do with the stock is that you can pre-make them and any quantity you want and make them a bit stronger or cook it down a little bit and keep in the fridge, and then you can use it whenever you want. And whenever you want to make ramen, just take it out, add a little bit of water And then there's your broth. In terms of the vegetables or any ingredients you want to add in, it's totally up to you. The possibility is endless. Follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. I post the food I eat and recipes on a regular basis. So I'm going to go back to my ramen, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.